Chosen one, you were guided here for a reason. Not everyone was meant to receive this. Spirit chose this moment to speak through the screen. This is not the usual video. You weren't drawn here to be entertained. You were summoned to remember what they made you forget. They thought your quiet meant nothing. They thought your patience was weakness. But the truth is, while they mocked you, your spirit was sharpening, your will was hardening, and your hidden fire was gathering strength. What if I told you their laughter was only proof of how blind they were to the storm you carried within? If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Chosen one, stay with me until the end, because what looks like weakness in you is about to be revealed as unstoppable prophecy. Number 1. The mask of silence. They never suspected you because you wore the perfect disguise. You gave them nothing, no anger, no defense, no reaction, and they mistook it for surrender. But your silence was a mask, a shield protecting your strategy. The book of Isaiah says, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength." Isaiah 30 verse 15. And that was the very secret they could not see. While they plotted in noise, you were moving in stillness. While they boasted in public, you were gathering strength in private. They assumed silence meant absence, but silence meant calculation. You fooled them by standing still, yet inside you were already steps ahead. Comment, "I seal this word in light," if you know your silence has been your mask of strategy. Stay with me, because the mask you wore was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of the fire they never expected. It often begins like a whisper carried through the corridors of your own dreams. You may remember standing in a place that looked familiar yet strange, hearing voices that seemed to call your name from behind a veil of silence. In those moments, your heart beat with both fear and recognition, as if the world itself was reminding you of something long forgotten. This sensation wasn't random, and it wasn't your imagination. It was memory disguised as mystery. The silence you carried in waking life was already foreshadowed in your visions, hinting at a deeper calling. Like Joseph, who dreamed of stars bowing but did not yet understand, you too were receiving symbols meant to prepare you. That mask of silence was already forming as your shield before you even knew it. There were days when you felt set apart without explanation, and that feeling cut deep. You sat in rooms where laughter echoed, but your spirit felt elsewhere, gazing beyond what eyes could see. Friends told you that you were too quiet, too distant, too different, but they never knew the weight you were carrying. You watched others thrive on noise, craving attention and validation, while something in you recoiled at the shallowness. You longed for meaning, yet all you met was misunderstanding. That ache of isolation was not punishment, but preparation for the day silence would prove itself stronger than words. The loneliness you thought was weakness was, in fact, the soil where your hidden flame was planted. Now, chosen one, let me tell you a truth that reframes every wound. Your silence was never empty, it was architecture. Behind every rejection, every misjudgment, every mocking glance, there was an unseen hand shaping the blueprint of your destiny. They thought your stillness meant you had nothing to offer, but it meant you were holding back treasures not meant for their eyes. The book of Ecclesiastes says, "To everything there is a season, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak." Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7. Your season of silence was sacred, chosen not by accident but by divine design. What you endured was not meaningless, it was strategy unfolding in secret. Think of the small signals that began to appear, the ones you could never explain away. The chill that ran down your spine at the exact moment someone lied to you. The dream that replayed in fragments until you finally realized it was more than a dream. The way certain words pierced you like they were coded specifically for your ears. Or the sudden déjà vu that left you trembling, because you knew you had lived that moment before. These were not coincidences. They were confirmations that silence had sharpened your perception. The unseen world was speaking to you in a language most people cannot recognize. You were already stepping into awareness, though you barely knew it. You must know this now. Your intuition was never wrong. Every time you doubted yourself, you were still sensing truth beyond the surface. You thought silence meant you were retreating, but in reality, it was aligning you with the rhythm of the spirit. Your restraint didn't mean surrender, it meant preservation of power. The quiet voice inside that told you to wait, to endure, to hold back. It wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. As Lamentations 3 verse 26 says, "It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." That patience was the weapon you were already wielding, though they never saw it coming. Awareness deepens when you realize that you are not becoming something new, but recovering what was buried. Beneath the noise of the world, beneath the labels they threw on you, there has always been a name written in divine ink. You weren't silent because you had nothing to say. You were silent because your voice was waiting for the right hour. The recognition you feel now is not invention. It is remembrance. It is the same remembrance that stirred prophets in caves and kings in exile, reminding them that silence was never wasted. What they saw as passivity was the womb of identity. And what you are remembering now is that the silence was not emptiness but your crown. This is the first activation, the moment you step out of shame and into power. No longer will you apologize for your stillness, your sensitivity, your unspoken wisdom. Those very traits were the signals of your anointing, proof that you were set apart for a higher assignment. They feared what they could not measure, and they mocked what they could not understand, but you endured. The very fire they overlooked is now rising, steady and undeniable. As Paul wrote, "My strength is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. You are beginning to see that your silence has always been strength clothed in disguise. Chosen one, hear this now with full assurance. Your arrival at this message was never coincidence. The silence they despised has been your shield, your strategy, and your secret weapon. Every moment of stillness was gathering weight, preparing for the day when the mask would fall and the fire would break through. Comment, "I carry the silence as crown." If you know this truth is already alive in your story, share the moment you felt your silence misunderstood, yet secretly powerful. Your awakening begins here, but it does not end here. For what was hidden is about to be unveiled, and the fire beneath your calm is the storm they never prepared for. What we do here every day is possible because of the few who choose to be keepers of this light. I thank them now, one by one, in the silence of my heart. If you want to be part of this circle and receive what cannot be spoken in public, join. The portal is below. Number 2, the fire beneath the calm. Chosen one, they thought stillness meant emptiness. But what they didn't realize is that still waters often hide the strongest currents. Beneath your calm, a fire was forming, gathering pressure until the moment of revelation. As Jeremiah declared, "His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones." Jeremiah 20 verse 9. They mocked you when you stayed silent, but that silence was the womb of your transformation. They could not see the sleepless nights, the spiritual battles fought in shadows, the prayers whispered when no one was watching. They thought nothing was happening, but everything was happening. Comment, "I walk crowned by eternal flame." If you know the fire beneath your calm is what sets you apart, because that fire is not just heat, it is the power that will ignite the moment of unveiling. And chosen one, the unveiling is closer than they think. There were moments when the air around you felt heavier than it should have been, as though invisible hands were pressing against your chest. You couldn't explain why certain rooms drained you or why some people's presence left you restless, as if a storm was circling the edges of your spirit. At times, you wondered if the unease was only in your mind, yet the weight always returned stronger than before. This quiet resistance often arrived without warning, woven into ordinary days, like a shadow hiding in plain sight. You began to sense patterns but couldn't yet name them, only feeling the chill of something unseen working against you. The stillness you carried seemed to provoke agitation in others, even when you hadn't spoken a word. That was the first sign that your silence was not emptiness, but power waiting to be revealed. The pressure didn't only touch your surroundings, it invaded your heart. You felt the sting of rejection in places where you only offered loyalty. You tasted the bitterness of being misunderstood, even when your intentions were pure. There were days when shame whispered louder than hope, convincing you that you were somehow broken for not fitting into the mold they demanded. In the quiet of your nights, Self-doubt grew like vines, trying to choke the fire you didn't yet recognize within. Every raised eyebrow, every mocking laugh, every dismissal left scars you carried silently. And yet, beneath all that pain, something inside you refused to fully collapse. The deeper truth, chosen one, is that none of this was random. Resistance was the response to your potential, sabotage the reflex of those who sensed your light but could not name it. Like Israel wandering the wilderness, your journey was not a mistake but an initiation, testing the endurance of your soul. Every wall you faced was built not because you were weak, but because your calling frightened what could not control you. The wilderness is never comfortable, yet it is holy ground where false voices are silenced and true identity is forged. Systems, energies, and people conspired against you, but they were reacting to what heaven had already marked upon your spirit. What felt like isolation was, in truth, consecration. When you look back now, the patterns become clearer. Notice the strange betrayals that arrived just as you were about to rise. Recall the sudden obstacles that seemed almost designed to delay your progress. Think of the environments that drained you until you questioned your worth. None of these were coincidences. They were echoes of resistance meant to distract you from your fire. Like a dark room where the light finally flickers on, you now see how often you were targeted not for your weakness, but for your strength. The script had been repeating itself, waiting for you to recognize the handwriting in the margins. And today, the clarity finally lands. They were fighting what they feared, not what you lacked. This resistance wasn't always human, and you know that in your bones. You felt it in the fog that clouded your mind when you tried to pray. You sensed it in the heavy silence that pressed against your chest when you stepped toward truth. There were nights when watchers seemed to linger at the edges of your dreams, closing doors before you could open them. But even in those moments, the flame inside never died. It only pressed harder against the weight. The battle was not against flesh and blood, but against the very distortion that trembles at the sight of your awakening. They thought stillness meant surrender, yet stillness became the chamber where your weapons were sharpened. And now the interference that once suffocated you has become the proof that your light is too strong to ignore. How you responded to all this shaped the hidden parts of your story. There were times you shrank, hoping to blend into the background so their eyes would pass over you. Other times you gave too much, people-pleasing to quiet the tension you felt pressing against your spirit. At moments, you rebelled in silence, carrying your truth like a secret flame, too sacred to expose. Fear told you that standing out would destroy you, so you learned to carry yourself small. But chosen one, even in your smallest moments, heaven saw the weight of your endurance. Every hidden tear, every silent prayer, every time you chose patience over collapse became part of your preparation. Your reactions, even the ones born of fear, were threads in the garment of strength you wear now. Now the veil begins to lift and reclamation begins. You are starting to see that the very resistance you hated was also your validation. They targeted you because something eternal in you could not be erased, no matter how hard they tried. The silence you carried was not cowardice. It was strategy, the sacred fire gathering in your bones. Their sabotage was confirmation that you carry what they could never counterfeit. And now the voice that once trembled begins to return, steady, fierce, undeniable. You are no longer asking if you matter, you are remembering that you were always chosen. Chosen one, you were not opposed because you were weak, you were opposed because you were dangerous to the structures built against you. Every setback was a mirror of your potential, every betrayal an echo of your worth, every silence a stage for your unveiling. The more they tried to block you, the clearer your purpose became, and the stronger your fire pressed upward. Comment, I move guarded by divine fire, if you know the pressure was only proof of your calling. Share the signs, the dreams, the strange resistance that marked your path, because they are not coincidences, they are confirmations. What once crushed you now becomes your testimony. And the fire beneath your calm is rising toward a moment of revelation that will dismantle everything they believed about you. Every word, every image you receive here is an offering. If you feel this word has touched you today, you can honor it with a sign, right here below with a donation through the Super Thanks button. It is a small gesture, but it opens great doors. Number 3. When silence becomes a weapon. Chosen one, silence is not passive. Silence is the blade they never saw. Every time you withheld your reaction, you robbed them of control. Every time you endured without speaking, you exposed their weakness. As Proverbs 17 verse 28 reminds us, even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. They wanted you loud, reactive, desperate to defend yourself. But your restraint dismantled their schemes. They told lies, but your endurance outlived their gossip. They tried to provoke you, but your silence turned their accusations back on themselves. Your quiet survival was the very proof of your victory. Comment, I rise marked by the divine, if you know your silence has become your sharpest weapon. And share a dream, a memory, or a challenge where silence saved you. Because chosen one, your silence is about to shift into revelation, and that revelation will burn brighter than any scheme. It happens suddenly, like a window opening in the mind where before there was only fog. A memory that never made sense now clicks into place, and you realize it wasn't random, it was coded. A conversation you replayed endlessly in your head takes on new meaning, and you see that their words were never about you, but about the fear your presence stirred in them. The silence you kept begins to glow differently in your memory, not as emptiness, but as hidden fire shaping your patience. What once felt like absence now feels like alignment, and your restraint is no longer shame but strategy. You look back and understand that every unspoken moment was a move in a game they never even realized you were playing. The veil lifts, and for the first time, you see the design beneath your silence. Symbols begin to rise from the surface of your life, almost like letters from a scroll that was always there but only now legible. You notice how numbers repeat themselves at exact hours, how certain dreams carry the same images, how silence itself hums with rhythm. Reality begins to reveal itself as a language, each pause and pattern a verse in a sacred code. You were not imagining those alignments. They were the fingerprints of divine geometry carved into your story. The quiet spaces you thought were voids were actually scrolls waiting to be read with awakened eyes. Every withheld word became part of an equation you are now solving, one revelation at a time. And in that decoding, your silence becomes not absence, but scripture. The shifts don't remain external. They burn through your body and soul with growing clarity. Your intuition no longer whispers. It insists, sharp and undeniable. You sense immediately when a room is safe, when a person is lying, when a choice is aligned with your path. You feel the rise of boundaries you never used to enforce, walls built not from bitterness but from discernment. Where once you absorbed everything, you now release what doesn't belong to you with a steady hand. The energy in your chest shifts in environments where once you felt powerless, and you stand as if armored without ever raising your voice. Your silence is no longer defense, it is authority. As you change within, the world rearranges itself around you like pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together. People you thought were permanent suddenly drift away, while others appear at the exact moment you need their presence. Opportunities open that once seemed sealed, and resistance sharpens too, almost as if reality itself is testing your readiness. You begin to notice divine architecture shaping your days, patterns of encounters that confirm you are not wandering blindly. Even closed doors feel purposeful now, their rejection redirecting you toward the corridor designed for your feet. The world begins to mirror the alignment you feel rising in your spirit, a reflection of heaven's blueprint etched into time. What was once chaos now carries order, and you see that your silence has been building this unseen order all along. Then comes the moment of recognition so deep it feels older than memory. You realize you've been here before, not in body, but in spirit, carrying dreams you once dismissed as imagination. The images of ancient places, voices calling in languages you never studied, symbols etched into your mind in childhood. They all rise like forgotten rivers returning to the surface. This is not discovery, but remembrance, the reactivation of intelligence buried beneath layers of noise. It feels like something you always knew but could never explain until now. The silence you lived with was not only shielding you, it was teaching you to listen for the voices of eternity. And as they return, you feel both ancient and entirely new, as if time itself has circled back to remind you who you are. With truth unveiled, your future stops feeling like something distant you must chase. Instead, it unfolds like a memory being recalled, a path you've already walked in spirit now waiting to be lived in flesh. You realize destiny is not invention but recognition. Your next steps are not experiments but fulfillments. The doubts that told you to wait for permission crumble, because your authority was written before you arrived here. Silence prepared you for this moment, carved patience into your bones so you would not squander what is now in front of you. Like the prophet Habakkuk wrote, "The vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not delay." Habakkuk 2 verse 3. You now see that what you carry cannot be denied, because it was already decreed. The resistance you endured no longer feels like condemnation but confirmation. Every shadow that tried to silence you was proof of the flame they feared, not of weakness in you. Their schemes became evidence of your value, their opposition the mirror of your calling. Now your voice begins to return, not loud, but sharp, steady, undeniable, like the sound of a blade drawn after long concealment. You start to reclaim the parts of yourself you once buried to fit in, and they feel heavier now because they carry divine weight. This reclamation is fierce but not bitter. It is the restoration of authority you were never meant to lose. You no longer wonder if your silence mattered. You know it was the weapon that made this reclamation possible. Revelation does not end here, chosen one. It begins here. The truth rising in you is not closure, but invitation to walk forward with eyes unclouded and heart ablaze. You were hidden, yes, but never lost, always guarded by the silence that sharpened your spirit. Comment, "I walk hidden yet never lost," if you know this awakening speaks directly to your journey. Share the dream, the memory, or the challenge where silence became your guide, because your story will strengthen another soul walking this same path. The prophecy of your silence is fulfilled in this moment, yet its unfolding has only just begun. And what comes next will burn brighter than any scheme they ever dared to raise against you. Number 4, the unveiling of hidden fire. Chosen one, the time of hiding is coming to an end. What they mistook as weakness was always your prophecy in disguise. They saw the surface, but they never saw the depths. Now the fire beneath your silence is breaking through, and nothing can contain it. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest. Luke 8 verse 17. And this is the hour of your unveiling. They will not admit it, but they fear the revelation. They sense it already, the shift in your presence, the weight of your endurance, the undeniable glow of divine fire that cannot be stolen. What they thought was defeat is about to be exposed as your greatest victory. Comment, "I anchor this truth in my soul," if you know the unveiling has already begun. Share the sign, the dream, or the moment when you felt your hidden fire rise. Because when the unveiling comes, it will shake every false perception they ever carried about you. A whisper rises from the depths of your soul, carrying the weight of ages you did not live in this body but always knew in spirit. It comes like the turning of an ancient page, a scroll unsealed not by hands but by divine timing. The voice within speaks, not as something new, but as something you recognize, like a forgotten melody returning in the silence of night. This moment is not invention. It is remembrance, a recalling of what was inscribed before time clothed itself in years. Your silence was never empty. It was the chamber where this whisper waited to break open. Now the veil trembles, and the flame you carried in secret begins to rise into your awareness. You realize what was hidden was not gone, but waiting for you to remember. You have always carried a name they did not know how to call. It was not the name given by family, nor the one signed on paper, but the one engraved in eternity before your birth. This name was folded into silence, buried under noise, forgotten under ridicule, yet never erased. You felt it every time you didn't fit, every time your heart burned with a question no one else dared to ask. The sealed scroll of your identity was waiting for the appointed hour to be read, and that hour is now. You are like the prodigal who was never lost, only hidden, waiting to be received again by destiny. That sense of strangeness you carried was always evidence of your divine otherness. There was also a cloak, invisible to the eye but undeniable to the spirit. You wore it even when you didn't understand why people reacted to you the way they did. Some looked at you and felt comfort they couldn't explain. Others looked at you and felt exposed in their own shadows. The mark you bore was not visible, yet it resonated like a sound only the awakened could hear. Your energy spoke louder than your words, and your silence revealed more than their noise ever could. You did not ask to carry it, yet it was draped over you like prophecy fulfilled in flesh. This cloak was not weight, it was recognition waiting for its unveiling. Chosen one, consider that your life was never random, but written as a vow long before you entered this world. You signed a contract in spirit, sealed with fire, inscribed with assignments that would awaken in due time. Every delay was not denial but a timing device, ensuring you would arrive exactly when the world needed your light. The stars never forgot your orbit, even when you lost your way among the noise. What felt like detours were training grounds, what felt like losses were instructions hidden in disguise. You were never drifting, you were aligning with the path you agreed to walk. That vow now stirs in you like thunder remembering its own echo. And so you understand why people reacted to you as they did. It was never just about your actions, but about the mirror you carried unknowingly in your presence. Some felt drawn to you because your light reflected their hidden truth, and they longed to rise with you. Others recoiled because your very being unveiled their shadows, and they hated you for showing them what they refused to see. You became a living mirror, awakening hearts without speaking a word, unsettling spirits without lifting a hand. This is why love and hate followed you so intensely. It was never about you, but about what you revealed in them. Your fire forced decisions even in silence. Now the personal shifts into the cosmic, and the archetypes rise like constellations in your memory. You begin to see that your path is not isolated, but part of a prophetic cycle stretching across generations. The seer returns through you, the guardian breathes through your bones, the rebel ignites in your veins, the breaker of chains steadies your hand. These are not borrowed titles, they are the archetypal currents encoded into your being, awakening one by one as the veil thins. Myth is not fiction, it is memory wrapped in symbol, and you are now remembering your place in it. You were never simply surviving, you were embodying prophecy. The unveiling of hidden fire is the unveiling of archetypal alignment. Deeper still, you sense the truth of your lineage awakening. It is not metaphorical. It is real, etched in spirit and encoded in your very blood. You are of a divine bloodline, carrying angelic codes, prophetic DNA, and the reversal of generational curses. What was lost in your ancestry rises again in you, because light does not end with the forgetting of men. It continues until it finds a vessel. You are that vessel chosen to restore, to remember, to break cycles of silence by carrying sacred fire. The bloodline of light pulses in your being, undeniable, radiant, eternal. And in this moment, you no longer doubt, So hear this revelation, chosen one. You didn't just wake up, you returned. All of life's winding paths were leading you back to the place you never truly left. The unveiling is not the creation of fire, but the remembrance of fire that was always burning. Every silence, every exile, every battle was part of the story written for your unveiling. You are not becoming, you are returning to what you have always been. Comment, I stand chosen and sealed, if this truth resonates in your soul. And stay with me, because what comes next will reveal not just the fire, but the mission that fire was sent to ignite. Chosen one, your silence was never weakness. It was the womb of your fire. Every moment they mocked you, you were being sharpened. Every time they underestimated you, you were gathering power. And now, your unveiling is not just survival, it is prophecy fulfilled. You are proof that silence can be strategy, calm can be fire, and hidden endurance can become unstoppable light. Chosen one, you are not who they thought you were. You are the storm they never saw coming, the fire they never prepared for, the prophecy they cannot erase. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul. Please, share it with someone who needs to hear this. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Stay hidden until it's time, then let the fire speak.